Just to go back to the beginning, you began on the trumpet, is that right?
Well, for real, I started out on the viola.
Okay.
But that didn't last very long because I moved. And then I started on the trumpet after that.
I believe your grandfather was a musician as well.
He was, yeah. He was a great guitar player. His mom taught him how to play guitar.
So he
probably in the 20s or something like that.
Did he play professionally?
He did. I mean, he played. He played in bands, you know, various bands, and played for money. He played in prison, in the prison band, Angola prison.
Okay.
And but by the time I knew him, you know, he played in the weekends, you know, sometimes for $50 or something.
Yeah.
He never played. I don't think he ever made records or anything like that. He wrote songs, though.
So just the same, he was certainly a major influence on you getting involved in music yourself?
Yeah, I mean, he taught me how to play guitar, and just seeing him playing songs that he wrote influenced me. So I just kind of always knew from the time I was born, really, that, people sit around and write songs. And then on the weekends, they play music for some extra change. And that's what I always thought I'd be doing.
Sure. Now, it's well documented that after your car accident, you began reading a lot, poetry in particular. How significant was this period for you in developing as a writer?
Well, that changed everything, really. Modern poetry really changed everything as far as my song lyrics. After discovering poetry, I finally found that, I have something to say, really. Before that, I didn't really know I had anything to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it inspired me that I realized, the metaphor and simile and symbolism, I had a great urge to do this kind of stuff.
Right, so it all started to make sense.
Yeah, it all started that I was like, I'm on the right track here. Before, it was kind of like rock and roll music was all I listened to, really. You know, Leonard Cohen and the Beatles and Velvet Underground and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know what kind of songs I wanted to write. You know, I thought, I wasn't exactly sure.
Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we had a legendary band down here in Australia in the 70s called the La-Di-Dahs. And
really?
I believe you were also...
Well, I had no idea.
Oh, there you go. I believe you were also in a band called the La-Di-Dahs.
We were. Yeah. I was.
Tell us about your La-Di-Dahs.
They were pretty awful, drunken band of comrades. We kind of played country rock, I guess you'd say. It's like we had 3 songwriters in the band, and so we take turns singing our songs. And we were awful, absolutely awful. We were so drunk that, young and drunk, and we didn't take it very seriously, really. I mean, we just kind of played for fun, and of course we thought we were incredible.
So
it was kind of in the same vein as Kemper Van Beethoven or something like that.
Okay.
Not quite as goofy as Kemper Van Beethoven, but kind of in the same musical realm as them.
So quirky.
Well, it's quirky, but kind of folk quirky in a way.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like strummy.
Mm-hmm.
At times, strummy at times, mostly strummy, and that kind of thing.
Now, a significant early supporter of yours was Michael Stipe, who produced your early albums. How important was that for your own self-confidence in your ability to have a stamp of approval like that from a fellow artist of that caliber?
Well, that was enormously important because I don't have very much confidence on my own usually. I mean, I never thought my music would be I didn't think anybody would want to hear it, really. And for him to say, let's make records and people should hear this, that was enormously beneficial to my mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't really seeking out, I wasn't very ambitious as far as the music business goes. And so he kind of single-handedly gave me a career by just going, here you go.
There was a real stripped-down feel to those earlier records, a real raw sound. Do you look back on those albums now and ponder how you could do them now, but with all these years of recording experience behind you? Or do you think the rawness of those records is the actual charm of them?
Well, I really like those records. A lot of things have changed since then, and me personally, I can't play guitar as good as I could then. My hand has become all screwy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I probably would have played more just kind of solo guitar things, you know. I probably would have continued doing that more if my hand hadn't become even more messed up than it was before. So that's changed the way I record my songs now. You know, I love those raw records, those solo records, and I love you know, some other people's solo records. You know, it's just for me, it's really hard for me to play guitar, and I think to do that kind of stuff now. And I always wanted to experiment with sounds. You know, like my last records, I've really been you know, very interested in kind of exploring you know, collaborations with other people and kind of increasing the complexity of my harmonic structure and things like this.
Do you always have a particular sound in mind when you go in to record, or is that something that just naturally evolves during the recording process?
Well, it depends. Like my songs, you know, like little, you know, there wasn't much sound experiment really in my first record. You know, it was just me playing acoustic guitar, and then I played some kind of crazy keyboards under it.
Mm-hmm.
And my last record, Ghetto Bells, is pretty much, you know, it's the band. I kind of knew how the sound would be because of the people that were playing on it. You know, I knew what Bill Frisell plays like. I knew his kind of soundscape. I know kind of what kind of thing that Van Dyke Parks does on the accordion and piano. And you know, and so the kind of sound was just the band. You know, it was more about the songs and lyrics and that kind of thing.
Have you found at times that your records have changed during the recording process as to how you originally envisioned them?
Oh yeah, a lot. Like Silver Lake was pretty different than what I had the record that I wanted to make for Silver Lake was I wanted to make a really bombastic orchestrated record with an orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make this kind of with lots of textures and lots of colors. It ended up being kind of just a rock record because of the fact that that's just the way we recorded it. We like got a little rock band together of studio musicians, and we went at it, and that's really fun to do. So, and albums like Left to His Own Devices, the one that I recorded all the instruments myself at home, that was really, you know, developed kind of like a Pollock painting or something like that, where I started throwing things at the at the tape machine until it built up.
So it's obvious you go into the studio with an open mind.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to experiment with sounds. I have my songs usually worked out when I go in the studio, usually. And so it's kind of like just about, trying to convey the song in a certain way, so that the lyrics and the music kind of will transport you in a way.
Now, I think I read somewhere that in a live situation, you generally prefer to play mostly new songs. Is that right?
I often do that, yes. I like to play new songs. I forget the lyrics of the old songs because I'm always busy writing new ones. I hardly ever practice the old ones.
Does that help you, though, in decision-making process when choosing songs for an upcoming record to play those new songs in a live situation and gauge an audience reaction?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's always... I never know if the song is going to work or not. I write them in my own little bubble of... my own little cave of inspiration, and I don't know what people think about them. And so playing them out live... Sometimes I think the best songs that I've written, you can tell immediately that they just don't go over, they just don't have something, and I drop them.
Yeah.
That's happened so many times. And sometimes the songs that I think are throwaways, they are the ones that the people love the most.
You never can tell.
I can't.
A lot of reviews I've seen of your live shows mention a great element of humour in your show. How important is humour in music to you?
Well, in my music, it's really important. Yeah, even on the early records, always throughout my songwriting career, it's been very important to temper my dark mood with humor. It's a kind of I like to call it the torque of the sad and funny in the same song, or sometimes within the same verse or the same, two lines, the juxtaposition of humor and pathos. It gives this kind of torque, this energy that I really like. I also like the kind of this phenomenon where that some people will laugh and some people will get mad at the people for laughing in the audience. I really like that. That's something really cool about that.
There's been a couple of tribute records of your songs over the years. Have any of the versions recorded by others made you look differently at your own songs?
Well, I don't know. Like, I remember the version of Sad Peter Pan by that guy in the God, I can't remember that band. It was like the Red Meat guys and the guy from that other band from Chicago that was huge. What's the name of that band?
It escapes me at the moment too.
Yeah, the guy they were huge, and he's like, I can't remember. I can't believe I can't remember his name, but he's hugely famous. I really like the version of Sad Peter Pan. It had a kind of anger in it that my version downplayed, and I really like that. I like that. Also, Mary Margaret O'Hara's version of Florida was a revelation. Absolutely.
Does it amaze you to see so many people out there covering your songs?
Well, it's funny because my songwriting process and my whole my thing, I always felt like ever since I was a teenager or something that my songs were just kind of templates for someone else to sing because I have no confidence in my own ability to play and sing really. And so I always thought that these were kind of like, just somebody else who could really sing and really play could really do something amazing with these songs. even if they seem very personal to me. But what strikes me is like hearing the Sweet Relief record and the other. It's kind of hard for people to sing my songs. It's people have a hard time doing it. Really, I think it's maybe it's the way they're not as sing-song maybe as a lot of other people's songs.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And there's a lot of words in there, and I think it just might take a little coaching from me. And anybody could sing my song.
How would you describe a typical Vic Chesnutt fan? Do you have a handle on, well, for want of a better word, your demographic?
I don't know, really. There's all different kinds. I mean, there's these, they go from these kind of like hippie, Widespread Panic fans who I've done a couple of records with to you know, they're kind of like, you know, George Bush fans who are kind of morons to, I mean, not all of them are, but they go from this spectrum to, you know, partying, drug taking, all the way to kind of like serious middle-aged poet types, professors and things like that.
You got a real mix there.
Yeah, a real mix from kids to grandparents.
Talking about your songwriting, do you write songs with a specific album project in mind, or how do you piece an album together?
Usually I don't. Usually I don't. I just write songs all the time. Then when it comes time for a new record, I try to just pick and choose from all through my repertoire of unrecorded songs. The last record, I let the producer pick all the songs, which was the first time I ever did that, which is pretty fun. I enjoyed doing that.
How did you find that experience?
Well, it took a lot of. It's always a really hard process for me to pick the songs for a new record. I love them all, really, and so and I've got a lot of, you know, many 10, 12 albums worth, so it's hard to pare them down. It's always, I don't feel like I'm the best judge, really, or anything like that, of my works, or what maybe is where the timing is right, or anything like that. I always make the worst decisions, I think.
So it's not unusual for you to delve into a stockpile of songs that you may have left aside previous albums and bring them up for a later album?
Always. Every record has those. Every record that I make has really old songs, brand new songs, and everything in between. I always try to look at everything and, you know, piece them together and see what starts to go. I mean, usually it starts with, oh, here's a brand new song, and let's see what starts fitting with that, in a way. I don't know what fits with what. It just seems like, well, if they're all in the same subject matter, you know, I don't want to really put up all the songs about, you know, death or something on the same record. I want to kind of space them out.
Now, you had a brief run with major labels in the 90s on Capitol. How do you look back on that time now?
Well, it was an exciting time. I loved being on a major label. It was funny at the time. It was the Nirvana years, you know. It was when everybody was on a major label then. Everybody who was quirky and weird was on a major label. And, of course, you know, when I got dropped from Capitol, I was devastated, which is really odd because, you know, I never thought I had any real place there. I never thought anybody's going to want to listen to my music, but I was still devastated. And, which is, you know, the way things work, you know.
It's like you had this contract and all of a sudden it was just taken away from you. Yeah,
I mean, it was, you know, rejection is hard. You know, I'd been living a kind of rock and roll fairy tale for 6, 7 years there, where everything I sang, everybody was like, oh yeah, you know, we love it. And then I got dropped, and I just thought, oh no, reality's crashing in. And so I've had a hard time recovering from that. I've kind of just been trying to, I've just been trying to put out records, and I'm not a very good businessman or anything like that. And so I just kind of was tossing records out on different labels ever since then.
Talking about this new record, Ghetto Bells, some wonderful collaborators on the record. Van Dyke Parks in particular, a name that jumps right out at me. It must have been a real treat to work with him. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, Van Dyke is amazing. I met him in 1990 with the producer of Ghetto Bells, John Shalhoub. I met him with him in 1990, so I've known him for a long time and have hung out with him many times over the years. And I'm a huge fan of his solo records and his orchestration on other people's records and his songwriting in particularly. I love his lyrics a lot. And I've been a really big fan of his for many, many years. So working with him was really fun. He's kind of like, he's like a professor in a way. I always say he's like Mark Twain, or it's like Mark Twain and William Burroughs mixed together in a way. He's a fascinating character. He's really funny. He has lots of stories, of course, because he's done everything in L.A. since the 50s. He's been right in the center of the entire psychedelic world.
Yeah.
And but other than that, just his own personality and the notes that he plays on the music too is really inspiring. Really inspiring. He somehow knows exactly how to contrast my simple triads into something more complicated. It's really thrilling to me to play with him musically, and just to hang out with him. It's just like every time I get to see him, it's really like it's like I'm on Mount Olympus or something.
And Bill Frisell as well. What was it about his work that you wanted to bring to your album that you liked about his work that you wanted to bring to your record?
Well, a couple things. I mean, Bill Frisell is like the Buddha, really. He is amazing. He has this amazing kind of aura around him and a kind of very calming, charisma. And I love his music. It's really psychedelic and very expansive. And I thought that it would be... I'd worked with him a couple times in the past, and I really thought to make a record with him would be the ultimate for kind of this kind of expansive soundscapes. I thought it would be very exciting for him and Van Dyke and myself to make a record together. I just thought it'd be perfect. Something that some kind of complexity that I've really wanted to make, because they're very sophisticated melodically and harmonically when I'm the opposite, really. And so I thought it could be something really exciting for the listener.
So would you rate this record as one of your most enjoyable recording experiences to date?
Absolutely. It was fantastic. So much fun. It'll be tough to beat it. It's like I was in the big leagues for sure with these guys, that's for sure.
Is there anything else about this record for you personally that distinguishes it from your others?
Well, it's really lyrically, it's kind of exploring the same ground I've always explored. Every song is a new kind of short story in a way. Every song I sing about all different kinds of things, and so lyrically it's pretty much the same as everything else. There's a lot of philosophical diatribes in there, and there's little stories, narrative stories, and there's dense poetic explorations, and so that it's mostly the personnel of the band and the way we recorded it, and also the influence of the producer John Shalhoub on it. All of these things make it very different than all my other records.
Mm. Now, I believe you've been doing a bit of work giving talks on writing at universities.
I have. Over the years, I've done several of those.
Tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Well, I've given songwriting lectures at like Berkeley School of Music and Brown University and the University of Georgia, maybe some other places. I like to tell people, I like to talk about inspiration and what it's like to be inspired and where to look for inspiration, and just tell people that they can write about anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can find inspiration in anything, small or large, and that various techniques I've learned over the years to try to maybe get over writer's block or something like that, or not writer's block, but just kind of to get the ball rolling if you don't know what you're going to write about or something like that.
Yeah. Being in a position to discuss your craft in a forum like that, does it generate new ideas within yourself to approaching writing?
Absolutely. Hearing people in graduate school who have been, since I'm a kind of autodidact and they're in school being taught by professors, it's a long line of people who have gone through a long line of instruction and everything. That's really inspiring to me to hear what the experts have to say about words. It's really inspiring to me. It helps a lot. Professors and poets have been a big influence on me, friends of mine, and been a big influence, and they help my songwriting a lot, my lyric writing a lot.
And just to finish up, Vic, what's on the books for you for the rest of the year? What are your upcoming plans?
Well, I'm going to go on tour with Jonathan Richman.
Oh, wow.
For a month. He's a friend of mine. I've played a lot of shows with him, so we're going to have a really good time going all over the States. And then probably in January, looks like I'm going to go out with a lot of like Mark Eitzel and Will Johnson and various people on a big tour that we're going to do. Mm-hmm. Should be exciting.
Anything else in the acting field? You've done a little bit of that in your time?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've had a couple of offers. I don't know how great of an actor I am, but I'd do it if the script was right.
Yeah.
And it sure was fun to be in the movies. Sure was fun.
Okay, Vic, look, thanks for your time. It's been a real treat to catch up with you. Congratulations on the new record and a fantastic body of work before that.
Well, thank you for calling. It's been really exciting. I hope someday I get over there.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic to get you down here. It's a pity you can't extend the tour with Jonathan and come down together. That would be a double bill I'd love to see.
Man, that'd be fantastic. I wish I'm going to tell him.
Yeah, well, he's been down a few times.
I'm sure he has.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell him, hey, let's go.
That will be great. Thanks again, Vic. Thanks for taking the time out.
Mm-hmm.
Hope to meet you in person when you get down here.
Yeah, say hello.
All the best.
Bye now.
Take care.